Welcome back. We didn't know who was going to do that. Welcome back to Unstuck TV. Cheryl Green, we've got John Polish. I said your name right.
Thank you. Finally. All right.
And Heather Estes is with us. And we were talking about how Heather came to Unstuck. And we're in a Toastmasters club together. I was blown away by your speech when you spoke at the club. Just the vulnerability that's necessary to be able to share your story inspired me. Yeah. So when John was asking for other speakers, I said, we have to bring Heather in. Yeah. I'm not going to tell your story, but would you share a bit?
Yeah, so the story starts when I was very young, and unfortunately, like a lot of children, I was sexually molested at a very young age, and by a family member. And the part of the story was, learning how to shift my mindset from that and how to use a circumstance to get unstuck, to grow from it. And, it took a while, and it's still a work in progress. But that really set the tone for how I felt about being worthy, and being worthy of love, and being worthy of a healthy relationship. And that was just one of the things that I struggled with. But then I saw throughout my life that this worthiness had carried over into other realms of my life. But being a mom was a big one. And so that abuse throughout my teenage years caused me to make bad choices, and also not always be authentic. And so when I made those choices, obviously there were circumstances and consequences. But the bright side is that I have 5 beautiful children now. And I would say probably like with a year or 2 ago, I came to the realization that I was responsible for putting 5 productive citizens in the world. And talk about feeling unworthy. I was like, wow, how am I going to accomplish this? Know, and the realization that a person has so much capability, potential, and now these are 5, and they're looking to me to be their guide, their inspiration. Mm-hmm. And so I had to say, this has to stop, this feeling of unworthiness. How do I, one, I can't teach them something I don't know. And so I started, researching and talking to other people about it, but just doing a lot of self-development and awareness about what worthy means, and what was the part where I got stuck at. And so just learning that worthy means that you're good enough was huge, okay, that's what it means. And whose definition of being good enough? My foundation comes from my faith, and that's the one constant that I've had even since I was a child. In those dark hours, I always had a strong faith and connection to God and talked to Him, and that relationship has continued. I've not always listened, but that definitely has been the one thing that has continued to keep me grounded. So throughout that process, like I said, worthiness of a healthy relationship, worthiness of being a mom, those things have also led to, worthy of being financially secure. When you start to make bad choices and and you fall into, the stereotypes of being a single mom, and you're everything that everybody talks about, would I finish my college education? Would I be able to sustain myself as a single parent? Would I depend on welfare? And, all of those things come into play. Your worthiness starts to, even though it's your perception of your worth, it's not really your worthiness. It's what you believe you're worthy of. And so I would say that so there was 4 areas, and one was the worthy of being a mother of 5 beautiful children, worthy of being financially secure, worthy of a healthy relationship, and then my body image for sure, like being comfortable with who I was, and worthy of having and being a healthy body, having a healthy body, and being healthy in itself. Because I looked at this process of making decisions, and I noticed that each time I was sabotaging. Every time I almost reach a goal in any of those areas, I'd self-sabotage it because it came to the conclusion I didn't believe I was worthy of the outcome of what that accomplishing that goal would get me. It's kind of like the idea that you're scared of your fear of success in a way. It's the same concept. So I realized that it's not just about knowing that you're good enough. It's actually the process of believing that you're good enough. So how do you get there?
Was there a turning point for you? Was there a moment when you felt like you're finally worthy?
No, I think it's still a work in progress, and do I understand it? Yes. And are there days that I feel more worthy than others? Yes. Do I know that I'm worthy? Yes. The problem is, in my mind, I have to continually train everything that I've learned, or untrain everything that I've learned, and put it into practice daily so that I can feel worthy. I don't think that will ever go away. That's kind of like the only person that will probably ever feel completely worthy was Jesus, or so will I ever know? But the ongoing process of feeling it and knowing that I am, and telling myself that, and believing and working on believing that, comes from the work. That's the work process.
So the book, the Worthiness Factor book.
Yeah.
Where is that? How long ago did you start it?
Okay, so as I started to research, and discover my own processes, I wanted to talk to other people. So I started interviewing people, and I wanted it to be people of all demographics, ethnicities, income ranges, and I have great relationships here in Las Vegas, but everybody from my daughter to Elaine Wynn, interviewing them and finding out what they thought about worthiness and how it affected their lives, and how you said everything comes together. Well, the chapters reflect usually one of the interviews that I have with somebody, and then there is a kind of a takeaway. Each interview has provided a takeaway from me, and that is the chapter in each book, and in the book that will be a chapter in each of those areas.
So how does somebody go from not feeling worthy to writing a book on worthiness?
Right.
Where is that process?
So that's what I'm talking about. You believe that you can do it. You have affirmations along the process. And still, it's a challenge for me to get and write, even though I've written things and people have said, oh my God, that was great. Like, or I've spoken and they want to hear more. Even though there's an ongoing affirmation, it's still a process. Even getting a contract with Hay House Publishing, who's, my mentor. I'll tell you how it first happened. I was reading Wayne Dyer, and it was it was the book that focuses on change the way you think, changing the way you look at things, and things you look at change. And I was reading that book,
I'll
and I
see
came
it when I believe it, or something.
Yes,
like that.
yes. So I was reading. I almost came to the end of that book, and this was probably the fourth or fifth book of his that I've read. And so he talks about his story and how he created this publishing house that he wanted, and because he didn't want to fall into the other publishers, and he wanted his material to be written the way he wanted. And so him and Miss Hay House created this publishing company. So I get to the end of the book, and a book piece falls out, and it's all about the publisher's Hay House, and send a submission, and so I'm like, what the heck, so I sent a submission, and they were interested, and the agent contacted me, and the rest is kind of history. Now it's about getting it done. So the timeline is, I have a deadline of May to get it to my editor here locally. Publishing happens over the summer, and it'll be launching, soft launch in October, and then a hard launch in November. But overall, the overall goal is $7 million in profit, on a world tour as a speaker and an author in 3 years.
It's a good goal.
New York Times best-selling author. So those are all part of the goals that I know will happen. It's just a process.
And the reason I asked you that is because I wanted to point out the importance of getting started.
Yeah.
And how that book was probably, I know for me, I wrote Finding Your Happiness when I was at my least happy point in life.
Yeah.
But I wrote it as my own therapy, my own way of picking up and moving forward after some horrible circumstances. So
that's
you
the process.
kind of started, you didn't feel completely worthy at the time you started the Worthiness Factor.
Nope.
Either.
No, but you're right. At the process, I have gotten or feel more and convinced myself.
So in a sense, it's your own therapy. And Cheryl's finishing her book this week, which we're holding her accountable to.
Yay. Yeah. It's not easy.
I like that you said it's the process. We're never done. This is constantly growing, constantly learning. And I think through helping others is how you actually reach your goals.
And if we're waiting to be good enough, we'll never do anything, right? We have to get started right now.
How can they find you? Because we're
Okay, HeatherEstes.com. Okay. And one of the great things, if you go in and subscribe and want to reserve a copy, you get a free audiobook when it comes out in November. So HeatherEstes.com, you can go there, subscribe. I'm on Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter.
Awesome.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Check out UnstuckConferences.com for information about the August 19th Unstuck Conference at the Smith Center.
Yay.
And probably by next month, we'll be able to release the lineup. I can tell you this much. It's amazing. You won't want to miss it. So
awesome.
Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Everybody's worthy.